Hi guys, I hope you're all fine. So today we're going to discuss our tutorial one. In this section, I'm going to introduce you to basic macroeconomics concepts such as GDP, the types of GDP, how to measure GDP, and so on and so forth. And before starting, maybe it's interesting to say that GDP, which stands for gross domestic products, it's a measure of total output of a certain economy given a certain period of time. This means, for example, that it measures the total goods and services processed within borders of a certain country or economy, okay, which means that if, for example, we have a certain person or individual living outside the country but then is producing where he is, okay, we cannot, the fact that he belongs to this country like South Africa, we cannot use or cannot count for what the person is producing outside the borders as our GDP, because that thing has already been counted in the count that the person is producing in, as the GDP of that country. So in terms of the types, you can have like nominal GDP and real GDP. This we'll discuss as we go along. And something else is that we can have different measures of GDP. For example, we can measure it as the final goods, or for like final goods approach, or we can just follow the value added approach. So we are going to have here final goods approach. So let's go for it and see how does it look like in terms of our tutorial. Good. It says question 1, an economy produces three goods: cars, computers, and oranges. Quantities and prices per unit for years 2010 and 11 as follows. So I'm going to read through the table. We're just going to go straight to the question. What is the nominal GDP in 2010 and 2011, and by what percentage does nominal GDP change from 2010 and 2011? Okay, let's see how we do it. I have already written here determine GDP. I am going just to write nominal GDP. Very good. Nominal GDP is basically the GDP that does not take into account the level of prices. Like for example, if you are analyzing two different periods or three different periods, you will use the current year of each period. In other words, you're not taking into account how does the prices change over time. In summarizing it, this GDP does not take into account the level of inflation. Okay, so we can have, for example, 40% of growth rate, but the question is, does really economy growing in 40%? Yes or no? So we're going to see as we go along. Okay, in terms of the formula of how to calculate GDP, as I have already stressed, we are just going to say that it is the quantity of a certain product or good and services times its current price. So in terms of the formula, you can just say, let's suppose that we have product A, all right, times the price of that product. If we have this, going to be your GDP. And if you have more than one good, okay, and you want to include everything, because it's a sum of total goods and services, right? So we're going to say this is going to be plus, all right, I'm going to open the bracket, like the good Z multiplied by the price of the same good Z. Okay, so in terms of numerical example, we can just say, according to our tutorial, it's going to be like 4 times 2000, all right, plus 10 times 1000 plus let me just say, okay, very good, 1000, where am I now? 1000 times 1. Let me just check before Very good. So this is going to be 80,000 plus 10,000 plus 1,000, and this is going to be equal to, this is 19, I mean this is 18, this is 19, this is going to be equal to 19,000. So this is our nominal GDP for 2010. We're going to do the same for 2011. Nominal GDP for 2011. Very good. This is going to be equal to, let's just check. Oh, very good. To 6 times 3,000 plus 5 times 500 plus 100 times 1. Very good. So this is going to be 18. Just start from here. 18,000 plus 2,500 plus 100. So this is going to be equal. This is 20,600. So this is our nominal GDP for 2011. Okay. And the question still says determine the growth rate of that of the nominal GDP. So we are going to say the growth rate of nominal GDP, nominal GDP, it is going to be equal to, let me say, nominal GDP for the current year. This is going to stand for current year minus nominal GDP for the base year. The base year here it stands for the previous year. This should be divided by nominal GDP. I'm just going to start from here. Nominal GDP for the base year. The B stands for base year, which is the previous year, and this is going to be equal to, very good, I'm just going to write here the division. Okay, very good. So this is going to be 20,600 minus 19,000, right? So this is going to be equal to, divided by 19,000. This is going to be equal to, in other words, this is going to be equal to 1,600 divided by 19. Okay, wait, this is going to be equal to, let me say, 20 and 6 minus 19 is divided by 19. This is going to be equal to 8%. 42%. Very good. This is a big growth in terms of the economy, there are economies that are growing at 8%, but then if the economy is growing at 8%, we need to see how is this economy growing, So that is the case. Let's continue. So the question 1.2, it says using the price for 2005 as the set of common price, what is the real GDP in 2010 and 2011? 2011, use the following price like CPIs. CPI stands for consumption price index. It's a consumption price index. So using 2005, calculate the real GDPs. Okay, we have different ways of calculating real GDP. We have real different ways. The first one is, in terms of the definition, the real GDP is just the nominal GDP adjusted for inflation. Okay, we just basically, if we have prices or given prices for certain goods and services given this period of time, what we're basically going to do, we're just going to set one price, or a price of a certain year, right, has a common price for the whole years, like for the entire period that we'll be analyzing. However, if we don't have prices, or what we have is just by CPIs, we're going to use the same method, but then we're just going to multiply the nominal GDP by the year, the CPI of the base year, and divide it by the current year. Okay. However, here something interesting is that the base year, if we say base year, we're not talking about the previous year. No. We're just talking about the year that has been chosen to be used as the reference year. All right. So we fix the prices using that approach. Let's go for it. Here I'm going to write really GDP. Really GDP. Then I'm going to write 2010. Okay. The real GDP for 2010, it is going to be equal in terms of the formula. Let me just write the formula. It's going to be equal. Let me just say real GDP is going to be equal. Let me just write the division that I don't write mistakes. It is going to be equal to nominal GDP for the current year. Okay, for the current year, multiplied times the CPI for the base year. Once again, B stands for base year. However, is not the base year that we're talking about here is not the previous year as the growth rate. No. Is the year that has been chosen to be used as the reference year, for the entire period, divided by CPI for the current year. Okay, very good. So in terms of numerical example, this is going to be equal to, just write it here. It's going to be equal to, I'm just going to write the division. Very good. 2010, we already know the GDP for 2010. The nominal GDP is 19,000 times 100. 100, if you go to our tutorial, is the 2005 base year, has a CPI. Very good. This should be divided by CPI for the base year, which is 116. And this should be equal to 16,379.81. Very good. So this is the real GDP for 2010. Let's do the same for 2011. Real GDP 2011. Very good. The approach is the same. Okay, I'll just do it here. This is going to be equal. Just going to write the division. Very good. So we know the GDP for the 2011 is 20,600 times 100 divided by 120. I'm just going to confirm this. This should be equal to 20 times 100 divided by 120. Okay, very good. This should be equal to 17,116. I mean 166.67, just rounding it up. Very good. So here we have our GDP, the GDP for 2011, and here we have our real GDP for 2010. Very good. So the same, it is asking us to determine the growth rate of this GDP. The formula is the same. I will say growth rate of real GDP. Okay, this is going to be equal to, I'm just going to write the division sign. Very good. This is going to be equal to 17,116.67 minus 16,379.3.1 divided by 16,379.3.1. This should be equal to 4%, 4.1%. Very good. So we can see the difference. Here we have, for example, 4.1, and here we have 8.2. This is basically a reasonable growth in terms of the economy. You know, it does not really matter whether the economy is big or small. At least it's acceptable growth rate. You know, it makes more sense. So as we go, we can see, for example, question 1.4, it says, given your answer in 1.3, what would you expect that it happens to the inflation and unemployment rate in the 2011? Something interesting is that it can be seen that this growth rate is positive. Okay, first of all, what does this mean? It means that if the economy is doing well, okay, you can see by its GDP, okay, that is growing 1%, 2%, 3%, and so on and so forth. What does this really mean? It means that if the economy is growing, we expect the firms to be producing more and more and more. All right, if they are producing more and more and more, they will demand more labor in order for them to produce more. All right, to increase their production. If they're demanding for more labor, that means in other words, the unemployment rate is going to decrease. If the unemployment rate decreases, according to the relationship between inflation and unemployment rate, both of them, they have inverse relationship. So we will be expecting higher inflation rate due to an increase, due to a decrease in unemployment rate. Okay, so this is what basically we expect to see in medium and long term period. Okay, so let's move on. Question 2, it says, answer the following question based on the Phillips curve. Is the unemployment rate equal to 0 when inflation is neither rising nor falling? The thing is, in the labor market, we have turnovers. All right, we have different types of unemployment. We have frictional unemployment, we have cyclical unemployment, and we have structural unemployment. Okay, each of these type of unemployment is going to give us a portion of people who are going to be counted as unemployed. Or if we are measuring unemployment, we will always have a certain number of people that are unemployed. It will be either due to a change from one job to another, or a change from position A to position B, or due to a cycle of, in economy, or due to a change in the structure of the economy. So we will always have a certain number of people in the economy. And another way of saying it, if for example the inflation, okay, we have some sort of, we have a concept here which is a natural unemployment rate, right? We will always have natural unemployment rate, which is the unemployment rate whereby the output is at its potential, okay, or in other words, is the if we are going, for example, for the wage setting or wage determination approach, we would say that this natural unemployment rate is the one such that the real wage, all right, the real wage in the wage setting should be equal to the real wage in the implied by price setting. So we will always have unemployment. It does not really matter whether the inflation is rising or it just stacks, it does not really change. We will always have unemployment rate in the labor market due to these labor market turnovers, right, which allows move in and move out of labor force from the labor market, and that's it. We are not expecting to have zero unemployment. This does not happen in any economy. So that's the thing. Okay, what is the slope? Why is the slope of the Phillips curve negative? Okay, there are explanations behind this. First of all, because due to the relationship. This is a law of Phillips, all right, which states that when inflation is high, we expect to have unemployment rate to be low, and vice versa. But the reason why is that, let me just try and show it here. Let's suppose that we have, let me just put this, okay, let me just do this, okay, let me just do this, okay. Let's suppose that we have low unemployment, okay, we'll start from there. We have low unemployment here, low unemployment, very good. If we have low unemployment, what is going to happen is that low unemployment, we're assuming that the firms are demanding for more labor. All right. If the firms are demanding for more labor, we have some sort of disequilibrium in the labor market. If you have some sort of disequilibrium in the labor market, this gives power to workers or employees for them to see that, okay, it's fine, there is no labor supply. If there is no labor supply and the firms keep demanding for labor, their negotiation in terms of wage setting, it increases. All right. So let me just say here, this low unemployment, it gives some sort of power, workers power. It gives power to workers, workers power. Workers power. The power of the workers, it increases, okay? Their negotiation skills or capacity, it increases from 1 to B, okay? Because they see that the labor supply is less than labor demand. So either way, there is no way that the employer can basically lay off them, or they basically have no choice. All right, they need to hire as many people or as much labor force as possible so they can negotiate their wages the way they want. And if they have this wage negotiation very good in terms of the market forces, labor market forces. What is going to happen is that because the employer does not want to lose their employees or their workers and try and go and demand for other labor and not succeeding in getting them because the labor supply is lower than labor demand, they are going to increase the wages. Okay, if they increase the wages, what's going to happen in terms of purchasing power parity? Okay, the purchasing power parity is going to increase. In other words, the workers that are being increased their wages, their buying power is going to increase. Okay, so we'll have an increase in PPP. PPP stands for purchasing power parity. So due to this increase in purchasing power parity, we can see that if they go, for example, to, let me put it this way, if they go to the goods and services market for them to buy goods and services, what's going to happen is that that market is going to be under pressure. If it is under pressure, the supply of that goods by like on the producer side is going to decrease. All right, so in other words, the demand is going to be greater than supply of goods and services in the goods service market. So due to this the equilibrium between demand and supply of goods and services, the prices are more likely to increase, So due to this, we're going to have an increase in prices, or prices increase, prices increase. Very good. So maybe I can just show here that the increase of price is due to the increase in purchasing power parity. Very good. So this is what happens. I will just show this, that this goes like this. Okay, I'm not good at drawing. This goes, it comes here, it causes this. Very good. Very good. Then this comes here, and the cycle goes on. I can just even do this. The cycle goes on. Okay, so this is what basically happens. This is the reason why there is negative relationship between inflation and unemployment rate. All right, so very good. Let's move on to the last question. It says, very good, in your opinion, what will suit South African better, a large or steep slope or a small or flat slope? Okay, something interesting is that, let me just maybe draw this, okay, so that we see what are we really talking about. I'll just clean this. Okay, let me just draw this and you see what are we talking about. Very good. Very good. I will call this unemployment, and I will call this inflation. Okay, it's not denoted by I, but very good, it's fine. This inflation is not denoted by I, but I will need to go and get the sign that denotes inflation. It will take time. Okay, so we will say, very good, we will say that this is the steeper one. Maybe I can change here the color so that we see, and we will say that this is the flat one. Okay, what we are basically saying is that a small change of inflation, or a small increase, okay, let me put it in change, a small change in inflation is going to yield a big change in unemployment. It does not really matter whether is an increase or a decrease. What we know is that once inflation changes a little bit, we're going to have a big change in unemployment. So what I think is that okay, let me just label this so that we see. This is the steep one, and this is the flat one. Very good. So what we are trying to say is that we need, according to my opinion, the Reserve Bank should consider the flat one, because in this way they can basically allow inflation to rise a little bit. If the inflation is increasing a little bit, they know that in terms of the yielding, okay, in terms of unemployment response, it is going to be bigger impact to unemployment rather than if they use just the steep one, because the change, even if the change is big in terms of, the proportion of change is going to be similarly equal to steep, okay, or different to steep if compared to flat one. The small change in the flat or in the inflation, considering the flat curve, it gives big change in the unemployment. That means if inflation increases 1%, the probability, according to the elasticity, right, the probability of unemployment reducing in 5% is high. So I think the Reserve Bank should basically consider the flat one. Okay, did you like this video? Thank you very much. For questions, please don't hesitate. Just write to us on at gmail.com and we will respond back to you. Thank you. See you in the next video.